So today we're going to walk through everything I'm typing here is kind of directly on the curriculum for Tuesday. So there's nothing I'm typing that's not already inside of there. Now Tuesday's written in such a way where you can just copy and paste and the app will just work, which is fine just to get people started. But again, anyone can go onto a tutorial and anyone can copy and paste stuff and then show, oh, it works. But the main reason why people are hired and people are not hired is, can you explain what's going on? So feel free to, like, as you're going through today, just feel free to copy and paste the entire chunk of code all at one time. We're going to go line by line just so that we understand a little bit more of what's going on. All right, so let's create a CRUD app where we're going to create a bunch of books. Maybe this is for a library app. Maybe this is for a book club review app. But we're going to just start off like that. So first things first, I'm going to pip install Django. And I want to install Django globally on my machine because I need to run a command that is going to generate a project for me. It's already satisfied, so I'm going to run Django admin start project my project.
You don't do it in the virtual environment?
Not yet. So I'm going to do Django admin start project my project. If I list out everything on the desktop, you'll see that my project appeared at the very bottom. Let's cd into my project, open up the whole thing in this VS Code. And inside of here, I want to create my virtual environment. So I'm going to do Python-m for make, create a virtual environment called virtual environment. And notice I am doing it at the very base of my project. So I ran a few commands just now. I pip installed Django, and I created my project. I cd'd into it, opened it up, and created a virtual environment. From here, I want to activate it. So source vem bin activate. And I'm just going to write pip install Django again, because since I'm inside my virtual environment, all of my pip packages don't apply anymore. So I'm going to pip install Django, making sure I have the most up-to-date version. And then from here, I want to create my app called Books. So I'm going to do manage.py start app books. Now, this is kind of strange. I have a project and I have an app. I'm not really sure what's going on with that. Can someone explain the difference between a project and an app and when you would use each one?
So a project is like a whole like a file directory.
Okay.
A project can have many apps. And yeah, and then vice versa. An app is a smaller part of a project. And an app can have this project, it can be in this project, so it's a many relationship.
Kind of, yeah. It's not, that is partially true. I do agree with that. What else? Does anyone else have any other recommendations of what a project is and what an app is?
So like the project is the overall like site or thing, and then the apps are the different kind of providing functions of you want to make each app its own kind of smaller function of what you might want on that site. Yes,
that I agree with. Yeah. So Bobby had it right. Nick also had it right. So a project consists of many apps. So think of like, I recently got my car washed, and okay, so I went to River North Car Wash just because it was the closest thing to my house, and I realized River North Car Wash has like all Porsches. That's just all they do. Like it's just Porsches and BMWs. And I'm driving my like 15-year-old Camry in there, and then they look at me a little weird. But I noticed that, imagine that the entire car wash is a giant project. There are different apps within that project. There's someone for intake. That might be its own app because it does that one thing. So somebody comes in, what would you like? They take down your order of like what you would like. Do you want to hand wash and wax? You want like all this extra polish and stuff? So there's a person taking care of a particular order. That might be an app. Then there's another person who just rinses down the car. That might be another app. There's a person who just throws on soap. That's another app. So they try to make it as, you know, as much of like a factory line as possible so that they can get as many cars in and out. And the idea here is I've got a project that's like the overarching, like the car wash. Inside of there, I have many small apps that do one thing. Right now, I have just got an app that's in charge of taking care of books. But if I wanted to create a project called Library or Book Review Club, I'll probably have that as the project. Probably Books is going to be one small app that will just take care of creating, reading, updating, and destroying books. Another one's going to be in charge of creating book reviews that are associated with these books. Another one is like comment on those book reviews is going to be associated with, like, that's another app that's going to be built inside of this project. But right now, we're just worried about this one single project called Books. And we want to create, read, update, and destroy things. So I want to first, no matter what, I want to register this Books application that I just created using Start at Books inside of my project's settings. Settings.py holds basically all the settings for your entire project. And right now, between lines 33 and through 40, you see all of the apps that are already installed for settings. It doesn't keep track of books because we need to keep track. We need to add that ourselves. It's going to add in books and add that trailing comma like Josh said yesterday. Adding the trailing comma is really important so that the next person who adds another one will not forget to put a comma there and then it'll blow up. Because if I don't have a comma right here and I try to migrate it a little bit later, it's going to blow up. So let's talk about the model inside of books. What do you think a book should have? Every book has a few things. Title. So maybe it's models char field. Max length is 200. Let's just say there's no books with like more than 200 characters, right? Just say a number of pages. Models integer field. What else? Genre.
Author.
Genre and author. We can obviously continue on quite aggressively. Let's say that's 100 characters for a genre, and then an author is going to equal models.char field max length. It's 200. How do you feel? You feel comfortable with this so far? All right. So a book. This is the model that we talked about, the M of MTV. So we got the book, which includes a title, genre, author, and pages. Because it's inheriting from this models library up here, we don't need to keep track of ID because it's automatically going to increment for us. All right, so let's. So we've created our app called Books. We've registered it inside of settings.py. We've created our first model called Book, which has a title, genre, author, and a number of pages. And how do I get this model inside of my database? So I'm going to go manage.py, make migrations. And what make migrations is going to do is that it's going to look inside of models and create a migration. Right now there's nothing inside of there. Basically saying, this is what you've written inside of models.py. We want to create a file so that we can push it inside the database. You'll notice before there was no file, and then 0001 initial.py was created. When I jump inside of here, you don't need to read through everything, but there are a few fields that we're creating. There's that ID. We didn't need to do anything with it. It's automatically generated. Then we have our title, genre, author, and pages, and those all match up with what we said here. So we've made the migration. Is it technically in the database yet? No. Okay. How do I get this migration inside of the database? Migrate. Okay. So I'm going to manage.py. Let's not make migrate. All right. And you'll see that what it did was it went through this migrations file and just ran all of this code and put everything inside the database. Now, I want to just verify inside my pSQL beforehand that I do have that books table inside of there and there's no records in it quite yet. So how do I find the name of my database?
Settings.
Settings, okay.
Did you put it to PC?
I did, oh dang it, I put it into P-SQL. Okay, I guess we won't do that. We'll do that. I guess we'll do that later.
It was like, I didn't see that.
Yeah.
Dang.
Yeah, we didn't even create PV here.
All right, so we got our book. Let's create a few routes. So what are some of the routes that we want to create? So slash books, perhaps. So we want to be able to create, read, update, and destroy books. So we need routes for each one of those. I'm going to create a new file inside of here called urls.py. Under books, there are certain URLs that we're worried about. So I'm going to create a file called urls.py. What I'm going to do is I'm going to import path, because that's going to be important very soon. I'm going to bring in a bunch of views in just a bit. I'm going to create a bunch of URL patterns. The first one, I'm going to create a path to just slash books. It's going to take me to views, maybe book list, and then name equals book list.
No, the name's great. Can you explain that to me?
I will.
I don't understand what it's actually doing.
Sure, I'll do that in just a bit. So I've created a bunch of URLs, one URL for books, and this URL also needs to be registered up to the top. So in order to register all of the URLs for your individual apps inside your project level, what I'm going to do is I'm going to just replace this whole thing here. So anytime anybody makes a request to slash admin on my project level, it's admin.sites.urls, something we're going to cover tomorrow, takes care of all those admin routes. Anytime anybody makes a request to slash books slash anything, I'm going to pass them off to the books URLs file. And that's what's going on here. So anytime anybody makes a request to slash books without anything at the end, I'm going to take them to the views. Remember, it's MTV. I'm going to take them to the views file, specifically the book list method. And if I just look inside of book, if I look inside of views.py, you'll notice that I don't have anything inside of book list. So let's create that really quick. We're going to create def book list. It's going to take in a request, and we're just going to stop right there. So if I want to look at all the books inside of my database and just have them render out like a giant list, what do I need to do in the controller level, in the view level? Sorry. Yep.
First, you need to import the book.
Yep. I need to bring in the whole book model. Okay.
And
so from models,
use a query on the object book or book.objects.
Okay. So you're saying, first of all, the views needs to know that the book model exists, because the book model connects to the database. And you said grab all the books from the database by doing books equals book.objects.all. Okay. So again, we made a request to a particular URL. It passed me off to this particular views file. The views file has a book list method. The book list method, this is the controller portion of your entire application. You're going inside the database and grabbing all the books using the model class, okay? At this point, what do I do next?
Oh, so we're going to need to render a template so we can follow function. We can just discuss it, but
yeah, let's try it out. Let's say we're going to do return render request. We need to pass in a template name, so we'll just call it books/booklist.html, and then we're going to pass in.
I guess you should make it.
All right, so somebody makes a request to slash books. Books, it'll go through the URL patterns. Takes me to the views file. Takes me to the book list method. The book list method grabs all the books from the database, formats it in the way that we need to, and then passes it off to booklist.html. And if you take a look here, I'm passing in some data. It's going to be a dictionary. The key is going to be books, And then the value is going to be all the books that I found on line 5. I can also just call this all books just to differentiate it as well.
So render takes the request and then it sends them to the it sends them to the route.
So render basically says, based off of this request, respond with this HTML template with this data that the template needs.
I feel like you bring this up every single time. It just drives you nuts.
Okay. It's Shift Command P, and then you type in Python select interpreter, and then you choose the virtual environment one. All right, so the views, again, the views is kind of like the brains of the whole operation. It talks to the model, and it also grabs the, it also passes off all the data off to the templates. So I created a template. I said, I'm looking for a template called booklist.html. Where does that go?
In the books.
Yep.
Create a folder called templates.
Create a folder called templates.
And then another folder called books.
Another folder called books. That's this first books right over here. Booklist.html. So now I've got my booklist.html, and let's just make an h1 tag just to make, hello there, just to make sure that something works, because otherwise I'd be very upset. So how do I run my server? I want to make sure that this actually just works.
The Python and to run server.
Yeah. Uh-oh, no module called book. So it blows up on views.py, line number 2.
Yeah, for models.
Yeah.
Or is it that book?
I didn't know.
Sorry, it's the name of the app. It's books.models. And then, so it's books, the name of the,
book.
yeah, because I did book by accident, my mistake. So if I jump over and I go to localhost 8000, I have nothing. Oh, man. But if we look carefully and we go under here, there's no route for just slash. I'm very declarative here. I said anytime you make a request to /books, then something happens. I'm going to go make a request to /books, and it just says hello there to start with, which is nice. So we know at least that we're hitting this particular file. At this point, let's iterate through all the books and then just display their title. We'll do h1, all books. And I need to somehow iterate over all the books and display just the title. Thoughts? I can't console log. I have to do that weird Jinja stuff.
You really need to change that.
I'm going to do a little something different here. All this stuff is already inside of your curriculum, so I'm just going to copy and paste it here. So we've got all the books as an H1, and I've got a giant table. It's going to have a title, pages, view, edit, and delete. What else did we put inside of here? We said they have a title, genre, author, and pages. Title, genre, author, genre, author name, and number of pages. Then I'm going to have some routes for view, edit, and delete. We'll fill those out in just a little bit. But this is that weird Jinja stuff that Chad was talking about a little bit earlier. We're iterating over everything inside of the book list. And where does book list come from?
We call it all books.
Oh, we called it all books, okay. So I'm passing in a dictionary of variables inside the HTML file that we may or may not need. So I'm just going to grab all books. So I'm going to iterate over every single book. I'm going to have the title, the genre, the author name, and the number of pages. So I believe it's genre, author, and pages. And all of this is currently broken. And we'll fix that in just a bit. Sure.
What's the difference between TD and TD?
TD is table header, and TD is table something else. This TR is for table row.
Table detail.
Table detail, okay. Sounds right. This is just all to create one giant table. So I'm going to get rid of these for right now because I know that's going to blow up. This will also blow up. Let's just see if this works. And this will also blow up for right now. All right, so we have, it just says books, and we have all of those title, genre, author, and number of pages. Now I'm going to show you something that I wanted to show tomorrow, but because I'm lazy, I'm going to do it today. There is an admin panel that is built into Django, and you can actually create, read, update, and destroy all the records directly from here. But that's not the point of our class. Yep.
Can you do it with SQLite? We were trying a super user, and I think we had nothing in the back end.
How to alter SQLite file. How do I connect to SQLite? Python connect to SQLite. Nobody really uses SQLite. That's the issue.
Yeah.
It looks like it's very similar to that. Oh, we can just import SQLite? Okay. A couple things. If you'd like, we can run through this and just, okay. Or we could change the database, or we can just go into the shell. Okay. Up to you. Do you want to change the database and just go inside of pSQL, or do you want to just go inside the shell, which will do the same thing? Okay, that's fine. Postgres. I think we're doing that tomorrow. Yep. Actually, I'm just going to do it inside the shell here. I'm going to clear real quick. Run Python manage.py shell. So I've got my Python shell here. So it's just a Python shell, and I'm going to import all of my models. I'm going to from books.models import book, capital B, and we're just going to create a bunch of new books.
What's the difference from shell and shell?
Shell Plus has the models already imported. I just don't have the commands in front of me, so I'm just going based off of what I know. All right, let's create 3 books. So book, B1 equals book, title equals Harry Potter, genre equals kids, author, what's that? How dare you?
I want to see you name 5 authors.
All right, what is the genre of Harry Potter then?
Fantasy.
Fantasy, okay. Kids fantasy. It's a fighting words.
Even more offensive.
All right, so another book, please. Game of Thrones. Still fantasy, right?
Yeah.
It's badass.
What's the author?
George R.R. Martin.
And then how many pages, roughly?
65,000.
All right, 65,000. All right, and let's just get one more book. Dark Tavern?
Tower.
Okay. What is that?
Stephen King.
No, he used to write books in the 90s. Number of pages? 700? Whatever. I'm just writing all these records here just to have some place to write it. I'm not actually going to be running it from here. So let's see if we can create this first book. All right, and let's see if we can save this book. Cool. All right, so everything looks like it works. I'm just going to create the second book and the third book. Underneath the hood here, this is just using the Django ORM. It's basically just insert into book and then title, genre, author, etc. And then values is Game of Thrones. Can't see. It literally is, this underneath the hood is still SQL for this. So we've created a few of them. Let's exit at this point, restart the server, and see what we have now. So anytime anybody makes a request to /books, it takes me to views/book list. I get all the books from the database, and then push out this HTML file with this particular value in there. Let's see if this works. If I go back to /books and refresh, there's that table that we created a little bit earlier. We've got Harry Potter, genre, author, and number of pages. So we went inside the database, got all of the records, and displayed it out to the screen like this. And that is our very first route. It's pretty simple. It's just getting all the books and returning it like this. Let's say that I wanted to view more details about each individual book. If I wanted just to view one individual book, I need to do a few things. 1, create a route. 2, create the controller action. And 3, create the view. So in that order, it's always the same thing. Create the route, create the controller action, create the view. Create the template, sorry. First things first, let's create the route. Where is routes? Right over here. And I'm going to add in one more route right underneath it. So somebody made a request to /books, and I took them here. Now I've got, anytime that you take me to /books/some integer, we're going to save it as book ID, so some number, I'm going to take me to views, book view, and then the name is going to be book view as well. We'll talk about these names in just a bit. So underneath here, I'm going to do def, save myself some time. Book view, oh yeah, I need this. No, it's under shortcuts here. All right. So I created my first route, which is anytime anybody makes a request to /books/something, some number, I'm going to take them over to book view under the views file. Inside of here, this is the controller action. This is that view action that's going to talk to the model. So it's basically saying, get something, or 404 them, specifically inside the book table, there's going to be somebody with an ID of the book ID that was inside the request. If you can find them, that's great, save them as book. Otherwise, save them as a 404 object. From there, I'm going to render this particular template out, and that template is going to require a particular variable to be interpolated. Does this process make sense? It's going to be repetitive pretty much over and over again. All right, so what you'll notice is that I'm missing this book detail. So under books, I'm going to create a book detail.html. And I just want to view each individual book. So maybe we'll have book details, title of book, number of pages, let's just do all of them. I believe it was genre and author. I don't think anything else is wrong here, so let's see if this works. So we're back over here. We see all of our books. We've got 3 of them inside the database. So if I jump to book number 1, there it is. I've got book details, titles Harry Potter, genre, author, and pages. Now, if we take a look at this back button and we hover over it, you'll see that I'm going to /books at the very end. But I didn't actually hard code the URL. I could have done /books, and that would have worked just as well. But I did something called what's called a named route. What a named route is it looks inside, it creates a URL called book list. Now, book list is not actually a URL. It'll jump inside of urls.py and look for a name called book list. That's what it is, yeah. So that's what's called a named route. Again, if you take a look inside of book detail, I'm not actually hard coding the URL. I could and just do /books. Both of these will do the exact same thing, because if I go back here, you'll see those 2 back buttons. Both of those back buttons go to the exact same place. Yep.
Question about that app name thing. Is that when you want to go to another app? Or
Yes. Yeah. Another apps, because it's like right now, to answer your question in particular, right now it's just slash and then /number. You're probably going to have a slash and a /number somewhere. So if you put the app name at the top right here, you're talking specifically about books, and then you can reference it there rather than, because you're going to have a bunch of things that are going to have something list and something view. And if you put the app name at the very top here, this doesn't become ambiguous anymore.
The route in books. So that's saying an integer, and then this integer is not equal to book ID.
Yes, that's exactly it. So /int book ID. So what I'm expecting is an integer. Whatever that value is, I'm going to save it as book ID. Once I get book ID, I'm going to look for that book inside the database by using this get object or 404, passing the model name and what I'm looking up by. The book has a primary key called ID, and I'm going to set it equal to book ID. So we'll do this. We'll just talk quickly about this, and we'll take a break. Right now, what we're doing is we're using what's called a named route. Because I've declared /books to equal book list right here in urls.py, every single time I reference book list, I'm actually just referencing this particular path, which is just /. Now, this is important because if I were to hard code my URLs like this everywhere, if I ever changed /books to /books123, I have to change every single time that /books shows up to books123. And if you have a very, very large app and you have hard-coded all of your URLs, it's good luck trying to find all of them. But if we use this one singular named route convention, all I've got to do is just change book list to booklist123, and then I just change it in one place and it'll update everywhere. Because what's happening here is it's saying, I want you to create me a URL called booklist, and then interpolate it right over here. Okay, so it looks inside of URL, finds something called booklist, and then interpolates this particular path at that particular point. Does that make sense? How are we doing? Should we continue for another 10 minutes, or should we take a break? 10 minutes? Yeah, let's take 10 minutes then. Well, let's come back at 11.